This neighborhood is called Centennial Neighborhood, and it's probably one of the most economic depressed neighborhoods in the city. That's Winnipeg Housing there.
Yeah.
That's two private landlords, and then our house here. This is the biggest part of the development here. With the new house here, and then we have 3 here on Alexander. We have 1 in behind on Pacific. These are the first houses that Kinyu's had any involvement with since 1993.
Yeah.
And it was we were quite pleased to be able to build these 10 houses. Kinyu Housing is a private nonprofit housing company that provides affordable housing to low-income Aboriginal families. We've been doing this since 1970, and we have a number of homes now throughout the city, and rents are geared to income. We have single-parent families. Some are mothers, some are fathers. We have working couples. We have people who are on social assistance. We have some students that are raising their families and trying to go to school at the same time. We have some not parents, they're grandparents that are raising their grandchildren. We have just a wide variety of tenants. The operating agreements provide for a subsidy to the tenant. If a tenant is only able to afford $295, that's what they pay, and the mortgage amount or the amount required to operate that unit is $700 a month. That difference is subsidized through the operating agreement. We have a waiting list that's variable. It never stays the same. I have people coming in every day to fill out application. We probably, at any one time, have anywhere between 800 to 1,200 applications on file.
In Manitoba, the low-income Aboriginal families are in a housing crisis. If you look at the amount of children with 4,000 Aboriginal families, you're looking at close to about 16,000 Aboriginal children requiring safe, adequate, and affordable housing.
Manitoba has the highest percentage of children who have been in poverty for 6 years or longer. See, the effects of poverty are increase over time. If you happen to spend a year being poor, and then dad gets a job, or both, the situation improves, it tends to be a recoverable circumstance. If in fact, though, you endure this for as long as 6 years, living in substandard housing and having to line up at food banks, and then we believe there could be long-term effects from that.
I think that the largest difficulty we run into, well, there's a couple of them. One is those youth that are leaving onto independent living at 16. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know any youth that are really that successful at 16 going out on their own, eh? You're being asked to make it on a welfare budget. Now, most adults can't do that, so it's pretty challenging for youth with very limited experiences to be able to do that. So those youth, at the same time that they're put out on independent living, can't often get a lease to rent because they're not legally of age. So it's very, very difficult. They find themselves in very, very vulnerable housing situations where the landlord may be criminally involved and asking them to engage in crime and payment for rent and on, right? They can be in very, very, very compromising situations, and they'll often show back up here saying, I didn't want to do that for rent.
There should be no child in a family, especially if they're working, that doesn't enjoy the basic things that are required.
Like even sitting here, sometimes I see these young people going by, sniffing. Like I see a lot of these sniffers, and they're walking back and forth here with their rags on their nose and that, and it's just so sad. And also the what you call the prostitution. Like I see little girls here, I swear they're 12 years old that go by here, you know. It's sad.
Like, you know, when you think about the economic realities of Aboriginal people, most of the people within our community are living in poverty. As it were, you know, living in poverty creates a lot of shame for people that don't have or have never had the opportunities to really live with dignity. There's a lot of opportunity that's being wasted out there.
In the North End here, for example, I think we have the oldest housing stock in all of Winnipeg, probably all of Canada. I mean, there is some real slummy, bad housing.
We had one young lady with 4 children that didn't even have a lock on the door, and when she approached her landlord, months and months, and it wasn't until one of our childcare people decided to take it upon herself to get, you know, to buy the hinges and all of that so that she could lock the door and keep it closed.
The cost of decent housing now is just so unaffordable. So if you're on social assistance, or if you're working poor, or you're a student, like good luck in trying to find some decent housing.
About 37% of Winnipeggers spend more than 30% of their income on housing. That's seen to be, that's fairly high compared to other cities. As well, our housing stock in Winnipeg is among the highest in Canada in terms of houses in need of major repair.
We have a number of reports now, and this kind of goes back to what I just said, was we're starting to get more reports of people wanting to move from where they are because of issues surrounding unhealthy environments. Because they have health issues, they have to be clean places. And what's happening is that we're getting reports of an increase in bed bugs and the like, also mice.
When a woman has been beaten and she charges her partner and he goes to jail, the housing situation is not good in Winnipeg. Again, unless you want to live in slum quarters. So 2 years later, the guy is coming out of jail. She still has the same address because she can't find a place to go. So she'll either go back to the reserve, again, where there's 20 people in the family, and that doesn't usually turn out. So they either come back, into the city, live with family, which usually doesn't work, or they come back to their place again and the guy knows where she lives.
If you want a nice place, like a 1-bedroom, that's decent enough, you're paying more than half of your pension check is going to your rent. Like, and to get like this one man says, I have to live in a one-room apartment, and he says I still have to pay over $400 for this, and he's an old age pensioner. Like, where he's living, it's not subsidized, and they were saying, like, and there's so much discrimination. Also, they can't, like, when they go and apply, all of a sudden it said, oh, it's rented out.
Well, I think a lot of our people have been, we can go into the whole history of colonization and the historical abuse of Aboriginal people. But, currently there's still a lot of system abuse. Aboriginal people oftentimes are treated very badly by the systems that have been set up to serve them.